Hey everybody, welcome back to Carrie's Corner where we are finishing up the Pushcart War. I think we only have a couple more days left. So here we are, the Pushcart War by Jean Merrill, illustrated by Ronnie Sobert. Pushcart for Peace, Chapter 30, Mac's Attack. When Mac saw the army of pushcart peddlers in front of him, he thought at first he was having a bad dream. Mac had been having bad dreams about pushcarts ever since he had hit Morris the florist. Mac thought he must be dreaming now because he was on a one-way street. He knew he was going in the right direction, and he could see in his rearview mirror at least 6 other trucks behind him. 7 trucks, Mac reasoned, could not be going the wrong way down a street they traveled every day. Very much confused, Mac kept on going until he was within 10 feet of the pushcarts. He did stop then, tramping on his brakes so suddenly that the truck following him whammed him a terrific blow from behind. There was a shattering of glass that sounded like 1,000 punch bowls cracking up, which is exactly what it was. Mac was loaded with punch bowls that morning. Mac himself was flung against his steering wheel so hard that for a minute he was certain he had broken a rib. He gasped and blinked and peered groggily down at the pushcarts. There were certainly no dream. They stretched in a solid mass as far as he could see. Mac was furious. He socked his horn, warned the peace army to move aside and let him through. No one moved. General Anna, her new cart heaped high with the best quality apples Maxie Hammerman had bought her, was in the very center of the front line. She simply stood there eating an apple as if she had all the time in the world. Mac realized that the peddlers had not the least intention of letting him through. "What's the big idea?" he bellowed from his cab. "Read for yourself," said General Anna, negligently tossing the apple core at one of Mac's front tires. "It says on the signs." Mac could see the signs all right, but he was not interested in reading them. "Get off the street!" he shouted. But none of the peddlers paid him the least attention. Some of them were doing a good business with people who had gathered to watch the Peace March. Several other truck drivers who had pulled up behind Mac had climbed out of their cabs and come up to see what the trouble was. General Anna explained to them that the peddlers would let them through if the drivers promised to let the peddlers use the streets in peace. "Why should we promise you anything?" demanded one of the drivers. "Because if you do not, we will not let you pass," said General Anna. "Suit yourself." "You trying to start a fight, lady?" asked one of the drivers. "When there is a truce," said General Anna, looking very shocked. "Certainly not. I'm just going to stay here peacefully with my pushcarts. My friends will do the same." The drivers did not know what to do. They went back to consult with Mac, who had refused even to get out of his truck to argue with the peddlers. "I'm going through," Mac said. "You can't, Mac," said one of the drivers. "There are too many of them." "There'll be fewer in a minute," said Mac, starting his engine. "Wait, Mac, wait," begged his friend. "You're crazy." Mac hesitated. He looked down at the peace army. Unluckily, his eye fell on Morris the florist, who was standing in the front line next to General Anna. Here is a wild picture. Mac had had a grudge against Morris ever since he had smashed Morris's cart, for he felt that Morris had put him in a bad light with his wife. Mac's wife had told him that driving a big truck did not give him the right to bully everyone else on the street. So when Mac saw Morris in the front line with a new pushcart, the idea of the same pushcart peddler blocking his way a second time threw him into a rage. Without taking his eyes off Morris, Mac revved his engine and let go his brake. "Look out," he yelled. "I'm coming through." 2 truck drivers jumped onto Mac's running board and grabbed his arm. Mac flung them off. "They're obstructing the street," he growled. "Can't you see? It's illegal." "But there are at least 200 of them," said one of his friends. "Can't you see that?" "I can see," Mac said, and his voice grew frighteningly calm. "The thing is, this truck weighs 20,000 pounds when it is empty, and it is now fully loaded." Mac stepped on the accelerator. The 2 drivers who had tried to reason with him backed away, and Mac drove straight into the peace army. There was a terrible splintering and cracking as pushcarts buckled and shattered and flew into the air. Onlookers screamed as slats, wheels, apples, used clothing, and dancing dolls rained down on them. Fortunately, a pushcart axle, wrenched free by the collision of pushcarts and truck, was hurled, as if by design, straight through Max's windshield. The axle missed Max's head by less than an inch, but he lost control of the truck. The mighty mammoth swerved, plunged over the curb, sheared off a fire hydrant, and crashed through a plate glass window into a cafeteria. Miraculously, no one was killed. General Anna and Morris, the florist, who had been in the center of the line directly in the path of the truck, had fallen to the ground so that the truck, although it shattered their carts, passed right over them. Morris would have been killed if it had not been for General Anna. General Anna seized Morris by the hand and dragged him to the ground. Morris had been so stunned by the realization that he was about to be run down for the second time in 3 months by this same truck driver that he had stood frozen with astonishment in the path of the truck. Only General Anna's quick thinking saved his life. The peddlers directly behind Anna and Morris had a few seconds in which to run to the sides of the street, although they could not, of course, save their carts. About 80 carts were wrecked, and a number of others were seriously damaged. There were a few broken arms and broken legs and any number of nasty cuts and bruises, but it could have been very much worse. $40,000 worth of damage was done to the cafeteria alone, and the proprietor estimated that several hundred people would have been killed if all of his customers had not rushed out to the street minutes before the crash to hear Mac's argument with the peace army. Mac was immediately arrested for reckless driving, and there were plenty of witnesses eager to tell the police that Mac had run down the pushcarts on purpose. Despite their losses, the pushcart peddlers were in good spirits. They felt certain that Mac's attack on the 3rd Division had demonstrated for once and for all who was to blame for the trouble in the streets. Eddie Maroney lifted General Anna onto his pushcart and personally pushed her all the way back to Maxie Hammerman's shop for a victory celebration. However, that celebration was never held. Stay tuned for next week when we continue with Chapter 31, The Sneak Attack. Have a great rest of your week. See you soon. Bye-bye.